Hello and welcome to the British Accent Podcast. I'm Emma.
And I'm Daniel Reed. And today, we're diving into a topic that hits close to home for a lot of English learners: how to join English conversations without that nervous feeling holding you back.
Exactly. Have you ever found yourself in a group of English speakers, wanting to say something, but your mind suddenly goes blank? Or worse, you're afraid that what you do say might sound awkward?
Totally normal, and you're definitely not alone. Even native speakers sometimes hesitate before jumping into a conversation. But the good news is, there are simple strategies you can use to join in naturally, without overthinking every word.
So whether you're trying to participate in a work meeting, join a casual chat with friends, or just practice your speaking skills in a new group, we've got practical, real-life tips to help you make that leap with confidence.
Alright, let's start with something really common. What should you say first when you want to join a group conversation that's already happening?
That's a great starting point. One of the easiest and most natural ways to jump into a conversation is by using what I like to call a soft entry. This could be something as simple as, "Oh, that's interesting," or "Really? I've heard something similar." It doesn't interrupt anyone, but it shows you're engaged and ready to contribute.
Absolutely. And once you've used that soft entry, you can follow it up with a question or a short opinion. For example, if people are talking about their favorite travel destinations, you can say, "That sounds amazing. Have you ever been to Spain?" That way, you're steering the topic slightly while staying inside the flow.
And if you're still not sure how to jump in, a helpful trick is to repeat part of what someone just said. It shows you're listening, and it gives you a way in. So, if someone says, "I love hiking in the countryside," you might respond with, "Oh, you love hiking. Where's your favorite trail?"
Yes. Repeating and asking follow-up questions is a great tactic. It takes the pressure off of you to come up with something brand new. Instead, you're building on what's already being said, and that's what conversations are all about.
Let's talk about body language too, because that's something people forget. Even before you speak, if your body is facing the group, you're nodding or smiling occasionally, people will often subconsciously invite you into the conversation. You're already becoming part of it, even without speaking.
Exactly. And speaking of that, confidence doesn't always come from what you say, it often comes from how you say it. So speak a little slower, make eye contact, and give yourself permission to pause. It's okay to take a breath before you speak.
And if nerves kick in, try starting with a small comment, or even a little joke. Something light. Don't pressure yourself to be impressive, just be friendly and curious. Most people appreciate effort and sincerity more than perfect grammar or vocabulary.
Here's another one: use what we call universal entry points. These are general questions or remarks that fit in almost any casual setting. Like, "How do you know everyone here?" or "This place is really nice, isn't it?" They are safe, natural ways to ease your way in.
That's such a good point. And remember, you don't need to dominate the conversation. Just joining in a little bit is already a win. The more you do it, the easier it gets, because your brain starts to realize it's not a threat, it's just a conversation.
Yes, and you're learning through doing. Every time you speak, you're improving, even if it's just a small sentence or a comment.
Let's throw in a quick example. Imagine you're at a social gathering, and people are talking about weekend plans. Someone says, "I'm going hiking this Saturday." You could say, "Oh, hiking sounds great. Where do you usually go?" See? Simple, smooth, and suddenly you're part of the group.
That's a really smooth way to join in. And you know what? You don't even have to wait for a big topic. Sometimes people are just chatting about what they had for lunch, or a show they're watching. Those are golden opportunities to casually jump in with something like, "Oh, I've seen that too," or "I've been meaning to try that place."
Exactly. And those everyday topics are actually the best for practice, because they're low pressure. You don't need deep opinions, just something real and friendly. Like if someone's talking about coffee, you could add, I'm a tea person myself, but everyone around me is obsessed with coffee.
That kind of light humor also helps to break the ice. People remember when someone makes them smile. Even something like, I always forget what I was about to say when it's my turn, can make others feel more relaxed and connected to you.
And here's a big tip for anyone who's worried about making mistakes. Native speakers make mistakes too. They stutter, they lose their words, they change their mind mid-sentence. Conversations are messy, and that's totally normal.
So true. In fact, sometimes when you're too perfect, it can actually feel a little robotic. Don't aim for perfection, aim for connection. You're not there to impress, you're there to relate.
And don't forget the power of listening. If you really listen, you'll always find something to comment on or ask about. It's like being a detective, listen for clues, then use them to join in naturally.
Here's one more advanced trick, prepare a few go-to responses in advance. Things like, I totally get that, or that happened to me once, or even, I've always wanted to try that. They are super versatile and help you feel ready.
Yes. It's like building a little toolbox of phrases. When you feel prepared, your brain doesn't freeze up as much. And with time, you'll build your own unique voice in English conversations.
And hey, if the conversation feels like it's moving too fast, don't be afraid to ask someone to repeat or slow down. You can just say, sorry, could you say that again a bit slower? Most people are happy to help if you ask nicely, and hey, if the conversation feels like it's moving too fast, don't be afraid to ask someone to repeat or slow down. You can just say, sorry, could you say that again a bit slower? Most people are happy to help if you ask nicely.
Absolutely. It shows confidence when you ask for clarification. It doesn't make you look weak. It actually shows that you're engaged and interested. Plus, it's better than just nodding and pretending you understood.
One of my favorite ways to keep a conversation going is by asking simple follow-up questions. Like if someone says, I went hiking over the weekend, you could ask, oh cool. Where did you go, or do you hike often? That keeps the vibe flowing.
Yeah, and it takes the pressure off of you to do all the talking. A great conversation isn't about having all the answers, it's about showing curiosity. People love talking about themselves, so just keep the spotlight on them for a while.
Also, your body language matters too. Even if you're nervous, try to maintain eye contact, nod occasionally, and smile. These nonverbal signals show that you're open and friendly, even if your words are still catching up.
Right, and when you start to feel overwhelmed, just take a breath and pause. It's okay to take your time. A short pause gives your brain space to catch up, and it's totally normal in conversation.
And you know what? You're gonna have awkward moments. We all do. You might join in and then have nothing to say, or you might get ignored once in a while. That doesn't mean you're bad at English, it just means you're human.
Exactly. The key is to keep showing up. The more you try, the more natural it becomes. Every conversation, good or bad, is progress.
Totally. And if you're really stuck, you can always use little conversation bridges like, that's interesting, or, I've never thought about it like that. They give you a second to think while still sounding engaged.
Ooh, that's a great tip. Also, one of my favorites, have a few go-to personal stories ready. Like something funny that happened recently, or a little fact about yourself. You don't need to be super original, just real.
Yes. And those personal stories can be reused in different conversations with different people. It's not cheating, it's just smart. You're building your confidence and giving yourself a toolkit.
And one more thing, record yourself sometimes. Practice answering basic questions like, what do you do? Or what do you like to do in your free time? Hearing yourself helps you get used to your voice and catch areas you can improve.
Great idea. And honestly, the goal isn't to be perfect, it's to be understood and to enjoy the connection. People care more about your energy and interest than whether you made a grammar mistake.
Exactly. And speaking of energy, don't underestimate the power of body language. A warm smile, eye contact, nodding while listening, these little things make you seem more approachable and confident, even if you're feeling nervous inside.
For sure. And you know what else? If you're joining a group conversation, you don't have to talk right away. Just listen first, smile, maybe laugh at someone's joke, and then wait for the right moment to jump in. Sometimes even saying something simple like, "I agree," or "That's so true," is enough to start.
Yes. You don't need a grand entrance to be part of the conversation. And if you're ever unsure what to say, just ask a question. People love talking about themselves. What got you into that? Or how did you learn to do that? Are conversation gold.
I love that. Also, being honest can be charming. Saying something like, "I'm trying to practice my English more, so I'm jumping into more conversations," is actually endearing. Most people will admire your effort and support you.
So true. You'd be surprised how supportive people are when you're honest and trying. And over time, those nerves, they shrink. You start to trust yourself more. You build momentum.
And that momentum is everything. It builds your confidence step by step. One good interaction leads to another. You realize, hey, I survived that small talk, and then the next time, you're a little less nervous, a little more ready to contribute.
Yes. It's like strengthening a muscle. Every time you speak up, even if it's just one sentence, you're training that confidence muscle. And eventually, it becomes natural. You stop overthinking and just flow with the conversation.
Another underrated tip. Don't aim for perfect English. Aim for connection. People aren't grading your grammar in real life. They care more about your tone, your vibe, your intention.
Exactly. If your energy is kind, curious, and open, it goes a long way. Native speakers mess up words all the time, so don't hold yourself to some impossible standard. It's not about flawless language, it's about real human connection.
And even if you make a mistake, so what? Laugh it off. Own it. That shows confidence too. People actually respect that more than someone who's stiff and afraid to speak.
You're not just learning a language, you're building a new version of yourself who's bold, expressive, and capable. And you're doing it one brave moment at a time.
And you know what helps too? Visualizing the situation before it happens. Let's say you're going to a meetup or an English class. Just take 5 minutes to imagine how the conversation might go. Picture yourself smiling, saying hello, responding confidently. It really does prepare your brain to act that way in the real moment.
Yes, mental rehearsal is so underrated. Athletes do it, performers do it, so why not language learners? It reduces the shock of the moment, because your mind already feels like, oh yeah, I've done this before.
Exactly. And let's not forget the power of body language. You might not even say much at first, but just by nodding, maintaining eye contact, and having an open posture, you're already communicating. You're saying, I'm present. I'm listening. I'm part of this.
Totally agree. Sometimes, just showing that you're engaged is enough to invite people to talk with you. And then the pressure to always initiate the conversation disappears, you just naturally get included.
And when you do speak up, start with simple things like asking a follow-up question. Someone says they watched a movie over the weekend? Say, oh, what kind of movie was it? That keeps the conversation going without putting you on the spot.
Yes. Follow-up questions are golden. And so is mirroring. If someone says, I had a long day, you can reply, a long day. What happened? It shows you're listening and keeps the flow natural without needing a big vocabulary.
Exactly. It's not about impressing people with perfect grammar or fancy words, it's about connecting. And those little techniques like mirroring, nodding, smiling, and asking follow-up questions, they make a huge difference in making you feel part of the group.
And let's be honest, most people don't notice your grammar mistakes anyway. They care way more about whether you're showing interest, whether you're fun to talk to, whether you're making an effort. Perfection isn't the goal, connection is.
Yeah, and here's another mindset shift that helps. Instead of thinking, "Oh no, I'm joining a group and they'll judge my English," try thinking, "This is a great opportunity to learn something new today." That way, every interaction becomes less scary and more like practice.
Love that. And when you do mess up, and everyone does, it's not the end of the world. In fact, it often leads to laughter, which actually brings people closer. I've had so many moments where I made a language mistake and it turned into a really fun memory.
Same here. People are usually way more supportive than we think. Especially in social or learning environments, they admire anyone who's trying to speak a new language. It shows courage.
And remember, everyone has their first time jumping into conversations. It's never perfect, but every time you do it, it gets a little easier. Little by little, you build confidence, until one day you realize, whoa, I'm actually comfortable speaking English now.
And that's the moment everything changes. When you start to feel that comfort, conversations flow more naturally. You don't overthink as much, you stop translating in your head, and you actually enjoy talking in English.
Exactly. It becomes less about surviving the moment and more about being present in the moment. You laugh, you share opinions, you jump in with your own stories. It's like a switch flips.
And one thing that really helps accelerate that process is finding your safe people, friends or language partners who are supportive and patient. Practicing with them gives you space to grow without the pressure.
Yes. And those relationships often give you the confidence to then speak up in more intimidating situations, like in a class, at work, or even with strangers. It all starts with those low-pressure moments.
You could even set little daily goals, like, today I'll ask one question in English, or I'll say hi to someone new. Tiny steps that build momentum.
And celebrate the small wins. If you join a conversation and contribute even just one sentence, that counts. That's a win. You're doing it. You're practicing real communication, and that's more powerful than memorizing 1,000 vocabulary words alone.
Absolutely. Practice through real interaction, that's how confidence is built. The more you do it, the more it becomes second nature.
And the cool part is, once you've done it a few times, once you've jumped into a conversation and realized the world didn't end, you start rewiring your brain. You stop associating English conversations with anxiety and start associating them with connection.
That's powerful. Because let's be honest, language is about connecting. It's not about being perfect, it's about being understood. And when you focus on that goal instead of perfection, it becomes so much easier to speak up.
Totally. And you'll find that people actually appreciate it when you try. Native speakers usually don't care if your grammar isn't perfect. They care that you're making an effort to communicate. That's what they respond to.
And when you do make a mistake, it's usually not a big deal. Most of the time, they won't even notice, or they'll help you in a kind way. That's how you grow. Not by avoiding mistakes, but by learning through them.
Another tip. Ask follow-up questions. It keeps the conversation going without needing to say much. Like, if someone says, "I went hiking last weekend," you can say, "Oh, really? Where did you go?" Simple, but it works like magic.
Yes. Those little tools help take the pressure off. You don't need a speech prepared, you just need curiosity and the willingness to engage. And the more you do it, the smoother it becomes.
Exactly. And it's also okay to let people know that you're still learning English. You can say something like, "Sorry if I make mistakes, I'm still practicing." Most people will be more encouraging when they hear that. It lowers the pressure instantly.
Yeah, it creates a friendly, relaxed vibe. It's like you're saying, hey, I'm here to connect, not to impress. And that attitude actually makes you more confident over time, because you're not pretending, you're being real.
Another thing I always recommend is repeating phrases you hear often. You know those go-to lines like, "That's interesting," or "I've never thought about that." Memorizing a few of those can really help when your brain freezes in the moment.
I love that. It's like having a toolbox in your pocket. When you don't know what to say, just pull out one of your ready-made phrases. It keeps the conversation flowing while you figure out your next move.
Totally. And something that helped me personally when I was learning another language. I practiced out loud by myself. Like, I would look in the mirror and pretend I was having a conversation. It sounds silly, but it worked.
Oh, I did that too. It builds muscle memory. You train your mouth to produce the sounds, and your brain starts to get used to forming English sentences on the fly. It makes the real conversations less scary because you've already practiced the rhythm.
Exactly. And the more you do it, the more your inner voice starts thinking in English. That's when everything changes, because you're not translating anymore, you're just talking.
Yes. Thinking in English is a major turning point. It means your brain is adapting. And once that happens, joining conversations doesn't feel like climbing a mountain anymore. It becomes natural, like joining a group chat with friends.
Right? And let's be real, not every conversation has to be deep or perfect. Sometimes it's just saying, "Hey, how's it going?" or "Nice weather today." Those small exchanges are powerful. They build your confidence bit by bit.
Exactly. Don't underestimate the power of small talk. Even commenting on someone's coffee or outfit can open the door. Like, "That's a cool mug," or "I like your jacket." Bam! You've started a conversation.
Yes. Compliments and questions are golden. And even if the other person just says, "Thanks," you've broken the ice. Next time, it gets easier. It's all about those little representatives. Just like going to the gym, but for conversation.
And another thing, don't panic if there's a pause or if you don't understand every single word. It happens to everyone. Even native speakers sometimes space out or ask, "Sorry, what was that?"
Exactly. Pauses are normal. And you can always say, "Could you say that again, please?" or "I didn't catch that." It's better to ask than to pretend. Most people will respect your honesty and repeat it for you, often more clearly.
And honestly, that takes courage, but it's also what builds real fluency. Every time you speak up, even if you're nervous, you're telling your brain, "Hey, I can do this." And your brain starts to believe it.
And once your brain starts believing it, that nervous energy slowly turns into excitement. Like, you'll start wanting to jump into conversations, because now it feels like a challenge you can actually win, not a situation to avoid.
Totally. And one more underrated tip, listen actively during conversations. When you really pay attention, you're not just hearing words, you're picking up intonation, timing, and even common responses. It helps you know when and how to jump in smoothly.
Yes. And when you're listening, you can also mentally rehearse what you'd say. Even if you don't say it out loud, your brain is still practicing. So the next time a similar situation comes up, you're ready.
And you know what? Role-playing helps too. Even if you're alone, practice pretending you're ordering coffee, introducing yourself, or asking someone about their weekend. The more you act it out, the less weird it feels in real life.
Yeah, it's like mental muscle memory. The more scenarios you go through in your head, the more comfortable you are when they actually happen. And don't forget, record yourself sometimes. It helps you spot what sounds natural and what needs tweaking.
True. Plus, hearing yourself speak English can be motivating. You'll realize, whoa, I sound better than I thought. And that little realization can go a long way in crushing nervousness.
Exactly. And remember, no one expects perfection. People appreciate your effort more than your grammar. The goal isn't to speak flawlessly, it's to connect, to be understood, and to grow little by little every time you speak.
Right. So next time you see an opportunity to join an English conversation, go for it. Even if it's just a small comment or question, it counts. You're training your brain, building confidence, and becoming more fluent every time you participate.
Well said. That wraps up today's episode of the British Accent Podcast. We hope these tips help you feel more confident and comfortable when joining English conversations.
Thanks for tuning in. If you found this episode helpful, share it with a friend who's learning English too. And don't forget to follow us so you never miss an episode.
Until next time, keep learning, keep speaking, and most importantly, don't be afraid to jump in. Bye.
See you soon.